All right, good evening, everybody. And thank you to all of our wonderful crowd out there that's joining us online. Thank you very much. This is the Centerville Community School Districts. It's our regular board meeting night for January 9th of 2023, 5:30 p.m. in the Centerville Administration Office. We need to have two meetings tonight. The first one is a public hearing regarding the 2023-2024 calendar. And we'll start that with a call to order and a roll call, please.
Moore.
Here.
Mike Thomas.
Here.
Bob Thomas.
Here.
Shondell.
Here.
Berger. Carter.
Here.
Viscus.
Here. I guess the only visitors we have are visitors that are online, so thank you for joining us. We have no visitors in the room. We have Cameron here, but thanks, Cameron. Ask for a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? The agenda is approved. At this point, Mark, if you want to go over the... I apologize to everybody, I'm recovering from some illnesses and I got quite a cough. If you would go over the 2023-2024 calendar, please.
Absolutely. So in your board packet, there is a document that says presentation of 2023-2024 calendar to school board. This is kind of a summary of our process to get here. I've also passed around a revised, and the only revision is that I'd forgotten to mark one date red on the calendar that you received and had missed a strike through for an early out on one of them. So worked with, special thank you to Lisa Nancy for helping me get that. She was a really important part of our calendar committee and really was a good person to bounce things off of as we went through. So our committee members we had Brad Moore and Ron Rasky, Terry Schofield, Julie Caraccio, Lisa Massey, Sarah Harlan, Lynn Gear, Emily Mason, Cami Hill, Ryan Conrad, Chelsea Spurgeon, and Rich Parker. Chelsea was representing our non-certified staff. We had two representatives from high school, one from Howard and two from Lakeview, just based on number of teachers and students. And then Rich was representing the athletics and activities. Our calendar committee met November 15th, November 29th, December 20th, in order to review our materials and to look at example calendars, to talk about our survey that we conducted, and to look at the results and put together a final calendar. We had 231 responses recorded on our calendar survey, which I felt pretty good about that number. I thought that was super solid. Sometimes you get a ton of responses, sometimes you get very few. 231 was enough for us to feel like we were statistically significant. Sorry, apparently I've caught whatever. We did have some overlap on the calendar results. There's a chart down below that says demographically how a person responded their relationship to the district. So a person could check more than one box. So they may have been a staff and a parent.
I probably did give whatever I had to mark, so.
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't causing a problem until just now. But we had a good number of parent and guardian responses, 83 staff member responses, so we got a nice little sampling of people here. Kind of our big items on here. Spring break was one of our questions. Overwhelmingly, 69% of people said that they do want a spring break on a calendar. Then we asked about, we had 3 different examples. One that had a full week of spring break in early March and then left some time before the Easter holiday. One that was a full week at the end of March that kind of connected to the Easter holiday, and one that was a partial week surrounding the Easter holiday. It was close between the partial week surrounding the holiday and the full week surrounding the holiday, with a slight edge, 34.1% versus 32.7% for the full week around the holidays. So that's the That's the spring break that you'll see on that calendar there. Some additional responses we got regarding spring break. Most of the comments that I tried to go through the open-ended questions and kind of put them together into categories. And there were a lot of comments around having a longer summer or letting out before Memorial Day. Some postings wanting a shorter Christmas break, but then about an equal number wanting a longer Christmas break. So kind of run into that with these kind of surveys. And then some commenters sharing that we need to be careful about activity scheduling with spring break, which I did have Mr. Parker review how this spring break would impact our, thank you, that's probably a smarter move than the other. Did have him review our spring break that we've got here, and he had one, like a home middle school track invitational or something. It wasn't a major event that he needed to move, so he felt pretty comfortable with that. The next question there on the survey results part is the staff work days before school starts. I do want to say I'm really appreciative of our community members and parents who responded. There were probably 25 responses in some way, shape, or form that I don't know that I should be responding to this because this isn't about what I need. This is the teacher should get what they need for this. Like our community was very sensitive to making sure that our teachers got what they need with the staff days before school starts. So I felt that was pretty awesome and a nice show of support from our community. So the results here are only the responses from people who checked staff. So it's less responses going into this one, 88, what was it, 89 or 83, I think. Overwhelmingly, the staff, well, 55% of our staff said that they wanted to have work days Thursday, Monday and Tuesday, and keep the Friday off. That was something going into it that we were curious if how people would feel about that Friday and whether they want that to be a work day or a day off. There were some comments from staff about that's an important day for my family because we show something at the fair, and that's a day that we can get up to the state fair usually. There were comments in this section about needing time to prepare for open house, so I've started to work with the principals. You know, once we would move forward with the calendar, we'll set a class list should be out by this date so that open houses can be ready. And before that, registration should be done by this date. So we kind of build a T-1 week, T-2 weeks kind of schedule. And we'll give people some time on this schedule because they get work days on some of those days that we come back, and we'll try to make sure some of the work days are before the open house that way. Again, comment about state fair for family. And then there was an open-ended question for just general comments about the calendar. There were 5 listed requests for adding buffer days, but I kind of put that together in my head with the number of people who were calling for let's get out school before June, which isn't always something that you can do, but whatever you can do to try to make it possible. So we did actually add some buffer days to our calendar this way. So at the bottom right-hand side of the calendar, you'll see the order in which we would use days in order to buffer snow days. And hopefully every January is like this one has started and lasts that way through the whole January, and we never have to do a snow day ever again. That'd be wonderful. But if we do, we can use these. May 29th, May 30th, which will push the teacher work days back. Then the May 6th PD could become a student day, and the April 15th PD could become a student day. At that point then, in order to still meet all the needs we have for professional development, we'd have to tack days onto the end. But that gives us 4 days that we could potentially use without pushing students into June next year. So knock on wood, hopefully that would be enough. There were some comments looking for less PD days. That's a lot of that is determined by, you know, we have a certain number of contracted days, and typically we've done a certain number of student days within that. That is something in future years that we could look at, but we kind of stuck for this year with the same number of student days as had been done in recent years, just to have some consistency there. We had a couple other items that didn't receive a lot of comments, as you can see kind of on the bottom there of that list. not receiving a ton, just, I know we had some concerns about Pep Chapel, and people wanting to get there, so, we may find some way to be able to bust out video or something, and maybe work with the pitch to do that. You know, I'd spoken with AJ, during homecoming of this last year about some neat ideas that maybe we could give some of the tradition parts to our younger kids without completely disrupting all instruction for a whole week, because obviously we want our kids learning during that week too, but we also want them engaged in the tradition, because I think the nice thing about Pep Chapel is it shows our kids that you can do great things. We usually bring back people who've been very successful and are graduates of our school, and we get to show that off to our kids so that they know they too can be very successful later in life. So this is the calendar. You may notice on the left-hand side, we've got conferences listed out on this one. And I, a few years ago, and working on calendar, in my previous stop, I worked to try to include the district colors and the logos. I think branding is a big deal, and when you can put your logos and colors out there for people, I think that kind of helps people know, oh, this is the Centerville thing, this is what we do. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on the calendar or the process to help out.
Okay. So I guess one comment I would make is, Mark, thank you to you and everybody that you got together for doing this in December and January instead of April and May. And to get the calendar out to staff early, I think will be a very positive thing. So thank you for your leadership on that one. Now, this is a public hearing, so thank you for the explanation on that. I do think that the proper meeting protocol is that if the board wants to discuss it, we're gonna have to approve this under new business A in the regular board meeting. But, so this is actually a time for public comment. There's nobody in here. So, to do public comment, we just can't take public comment through our streaming, because it's only one way out there, so. I guess if we do want to discuss this as a board, I'm not opposed to it, we just need to make sure that we let public comment first. Nobody here. We can either discuss it now or part of the regular meeting. That, I don't think that really makes a difference to me, it's just let's, we acknowledge it's time for public comment.
You're probably right, it's probably more appropriate during the meeting.
Yeah. But no, but this meeting, I think this, getting it out is just fine, so. So is there any public comment at this time on the calendar? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting, or to adjourn the public hearing and move on to the regular board meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion second to adjourn the public hearing, and we'll move into a regular, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, so we are adjourned from our public hearing, and we'll now move on to a regular board meeting, which will take up the action item on the school calendar. So this is now a regular board meeting of the Centerville School District. We need a call to order. The meeting is called to order, and roll call, please.
Moore.
Here.
Mike Thomas.
Here.
Bob Thomas.
Here.
Shondell.
Here.
Berger.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Liskus.
Here. And we're now for public forum and read our public forum statement. I am actually going to talk to, I think Danielle, our attorney, and see if we can't get this about half the length, but I'll read this, our board policy for public comment. We're now at we'll open the floor to public comment. I want to remind all speakers that while this is an open forum for any issue of praise or concern, the board does expect all speakers to maintain a civil tone and refrain from using profanity to raise their voice and making statements that are threatening or harassing towards others. I also want to remind speakers that any comments that be made during a public comment are done so at the risk of the person making comment, and that the district will not be responsible for any defamatory, potentially defamatory statements which may be made about a particular person or individuals. If the board wishes to further discuss or address any item or concern raised in public comment, we'll do so by establishing an agenda item at a future board meeting and delegating responsibility to the administration to address an issue. Having said that, are there any public comments on our public forum for this regular board meeting? And again, since it's an empty room, assuming there's none. So with that, we'll move on to item 3, which is to approve the agenda. A motion is second to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion second to approve the agenda for the regular board meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Next order of business is to approve the meetings of the previous minute. They're in your board packet. Any question, comments, concerns about the meetings, if everybody's satisfied with the meeting minutes, we'd have a motion second to approve those.
Motion to approve minutes.
We have a motion second to approve the meeting minutes from the last regular board meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Same sign. All right, the meeting minutes are approved. Old business, there is no new business. Now, we can have more discussion on the 2023-2024 calendar. Again, thanks, Mark, for laying all that out. I think you did it at the right time for the public hearing.
Fair enough.
I think that was the right time to do it. Now it's our time as a board to discuss it.
I guess I appreciate the research, the surveys that went into it, and, the graphs. It was, probably more research than I have seen in a school calendar in a very, very long time. That seemed like it turned out well.
I would echo that. Again, thank you to you and staff members, the committee that took that on. And
Yeah, it definitely helped me understand the reasoning for why the calendar is the way it is, the way it is, so thank you.
We had a great committee. I do want to thank them kind of publicly here. They were willing to speak up. And, a lot of times you get on committees where a superintendent serves and people are kind of quiet. People were willing to say, we gotta look at this, we gotta look at that. And I really appreciated that out of that group.
And Lisa, I know we see your name popped up there on the screen that you're reviewing now, so I know you were part of that effort. So again, from the board, thank you, Lisa, for what you did help for the calendar.
You're welcome. I did put in a comment in the public, but I don't think it came across. Did you see my updated email to you today, Mark?
Yep, they have a new copy sitting in front of them with those, thanks for catching those.
No
So,
problem. Just want to make sure.
for the board's sake, what Lisa had helped us catch here today was the 19th of February, I didn't have marked in red, which indicates it's a day off for teacher workshop. And the 22nd did not have a strike through for an early out. I'd accidentally put that on the 15th instead. So we got those tweaked and fixed and on there so that it actually turns out right, and when it goes out to our public, it's our new official calendar, it's right. So thank you, and actually, again, I wanna make sure that you hear this, Lisa, you were absolutely instrumental in being the person to take those evening calls and say, hey, what do you think about doing this with the calendar? So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to work close together like that. So thank you.
Yeah, and Lisa, for the record, if you put comments in through the Zoom link and stuff, we don't see those as a board, so.
I appreciate it.
But we appreciate the yeah.
No problem. Thanks.
Just one question.
Yep.
When will this get officially out there then?
Also, once we would approve it as a board, we'll put the approved date, and then I'll give it to Cameron to upload to the website. I think it's good to give parents as much notice as possible, especially, like the fall sports practices beginning in August, that lets them start planning vacations for the summer and things like that.
I think it's great to get it out early.
How come we can't see comments from the people watching? We used to.
It's beyond my technical scope.
I don't think there's even a way to put it up there.
What?
I don't have a way to put it up there, and it doesn't even make a notification noise when it happens.
Was it, when you were seeing it before, was it maybe a laptop plugged in?
Yeah, I think it's a different device now.
Make a motion to approve calendar.
A second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve the 2023-2024 calendar. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Calendar is approved. All right, the next thing is, has quite a few pages in your board packet this year about the official high school change orders for change order 1 and change order 2. Is FRK not going to be on the? Okay. All right. So as you went through in the board packet, and I didn't print every single page off, but what I have in here for change order number 1 is a total of $551,360.90, and there's 11 different items in there. And if you saw the board packet, we've talked about all these change orders in the past. And until I saw the board packet, I didn't realize how much work FRK had to do to redo drawings, to rebid all that. That's a tremendous amount of work that they had to do. So unfortunately, they're not on here to accept things for that, but I think we do need to acknowledge that they went through quite a bit of work to put that back together for us, so. So on there, we do have the, change orders as listed for $551 in action. We've talked about these in the past with FRK and board. This is the last time that we kind of approved something. We took board action to direct FRK to go ahead and do the official documents. These are now the official documents that we have to approve based on that prior request for.
I only have one question,
Yep.
and that was the clear story windows in the wrestling room. I don't remember what we decided. I kind of looked back through the minutes and I didn't find anything, but sometimes those little, details don't make it in there. I know I had lobbied to keep the windows in there, because I thought those south-facing windows needed, would allow lots of natural light in there and would be beneficial. But if we decided as a group to take it out, so be it.
Well, I think I remember as a group, we decided to take those things out because of just how far over budget we were.
Yeah, that's a little over $9,000 to do that.
Yeah.
So, but if that's what we decided,
Yeah.
that's, sorry about poor memory, I guess you'd
That's
say.
okay.
That's been months.
The rest of it, to me, looked okay, looked like everything we talked about. So, and I thought the kitchen detail was well thought out.
Yeah, that one kind of scares me because some of that stuff we're gonna have to eventually put in if we decide to do it. And there's a tremendous amount of detail in there that we'll be on our own to do, so.
Yeah,
But I do think it's still the right direction, so.
at least we kind of know where, COPA, what kind of equipment they require,
Yeah.
and what we're gonna come up with.
Yeah.
So, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to approve, change orders 1 and 2.
Do we want to talk about two, just real quick?
Whatever.
Yeah, so the thing on two, the only thing, when Mark and I talked about the agenda coming up, and was that $44,000 or something like that in there? I got it printed out in here. When we originally met as a board and gave the okay to do that extra over excavation, we thought, what we were told at the time, that could be up towards $100,000, and it came in at,
39 something.
yeah, I'm looking for it here.
Yeah, I was pleasantly,
Very pleasantly surprised, and so I think that is that's kind of a win. Well, maybe I didn't print that one out, but, 44,000, there it is. $44,164.71. So, yeah, I thought that was a pretty big win, and I think it's $44,000 we didn't want to spend, but, and it comes out of our contingency of $250,000, but we did the right thing for as much money as we're spending to get that stuff out of the ground. We did the right thing, as far as compaction and building and so forth, and we are environmentally responsible for getting that old boiler out of the ground. So I think the board did the right thing there, and the cost came in half what we thought it was gonna be, so that's a win. So at this point, we'll take them both. We got a motion for change order 1 and change order 2. We have a second. We have a motion second to approve change order 1 and change order 2. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Change orders are approved. Now, with this, the second thing that now we have to do is approve the change in the plans. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No.
That's different. We have to approve the plans for the preschool project. I'm sorry.
Yep, so there's, the plans in there are the final plans for the I'm still scrolling through the change order documents here, to get to it, but, the plans for the preschool, vestibule will be in there, and we'd like to go ahead and get the ball rolling on starting to collect some competitive bids for that. Because of the, anticipated, cost of that, it doesn't meet the threshold for us to have to go through the whole bidding process like we did for the high school itself, but we'll go through a competitive sealed bid process internally, as our board policy calls for. I forget if there's a timeline on that, Lisa. Do you recall?
No, not,
So there wasn't a listed timeline, but they'll come in sealed and then we'll open them here. And it just says that, we open them, I think it says superintendent opens, which, you know, that'll be a whole adventure, maybe I'll wear a tuxedo or something for it. And in terms of, if there's anyone listening at home that would have interest in bidding on that, we will be getting that out through the, Athens Weekly, or through the, through Athens.
Do we need to set a deadline?
We'll set a deadline and we'll put a deadline down
Okay.
in the advertisement in there
Okay.
to make sure that we meet board policy and,
Okay.
and we would take interested, bidders on that. Should be a pretty smooth process, and our goal is to get that work done this summer, so we can start next school year with a secure entry, a nice secure entry on our preschool. It'll be a good addition. I'm, by the way, still scrolling through the kitchen here, so.
A lot of detail on that.
182 pages.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any questions on the bids for the preschool project? Any questions on the plans?
Motion approved, plan specifications and intent to solicit bids for the preschool project. Second.
We have a motion second to approve the plan specs on the preschool project. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right,
Thank you.
go forth and solicit bids. The next thing is the at-risk drop-off grant application for 2023-2024.
So the, sorry, that's a good point. That one is a yearly thing, and that's really Lisa's thing, so I won't steal her thunder, sorry.
you should have two documents in there. One of them is our, what, the plan, what we spend up that money on, and the second one is just the application. That kind of shows you the, district's portion and the amount, from the state, so. Most of our, most of our money goes towards what we would call the success coordinators or student, what's the term for those? Advisors and our counselors. And some of it goes to the students and some of it goes to software, Odysseyware, and some extra supplies.
So this is a case where the district pays 25% and the grant covers 75% of the cost. So the grant application is $495,230.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the at-risk drop-off grant for $495,000 for 2023-2024. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, so the grant application is projected. Next thing is early graduate 2022-2023, and
I'm sorry, that's just at graduates. There's two.
two, the graduates, yeah, there's two of them on there. So we did approve something last month, but there was some, I guess, administrative errors on our part because of staff availability.
Yeah, these two kind of slipped through the cracks a little bit as we were trying to work through that, for the high school, and Brad had kind of caught it and was trying to find some things we could do to help these kids accomplish their goals this semester. And as we talked, we said, you know, if they were trying to apply for early graduation, prior to things at the high school just getting busy, this late fall, we owed it to them to provide the opportunity. So we're just bringing those names to you as two people that got kind of mixed up in not being able to get access to staff that they needed to accomplish this goal in a timely manner.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion second to approve the two additional early graduates for 2022-2023. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Okay, now the next one is kind of an interesting thing because after the ISB convention, I stayed on Friday, there's some districts that were talking about doing this. And then Mark has gone to some superintendent meetings. And they've talked about doing this. So this is kind of a new and interesting thing that is becoming a trend around the state.
Yeah, so early notification incentive, basically, if you're going to be leaving the district for whatever reason, for a teacher, to let us know. In this case, we put, I believe, on our documentation by February 1st, just an incentive to help tell us earlier. Now, this isn't we hope to have people leave, because as we talked about with early retirement, we really aren't interested in having a lot of people leaving, because we want to have our people here, because there's a shortage. But it's one of those things where if you know you're leaving, and you tell us earlier, so we have the opportunity. Specifically, I'm thinking I would like to be able to go to the UNI job fair, with any jobs that we're going to have open, in hand, to be able to try to recruit people, because that's a pretty big job fair in the state that sometimes you can get some good teachers from. This just gives a little bit of incentive to say, hey, if you know you're leaving anyway, and you let us know, then we can move and be agile through the early hiring process. So we're looking at, what did we put down, let's see, what is the number that we have put down on this? $1,500 gross pay, which would be subject to employee payroll taxes. And it would be up to 8 qualifying early resignation notices. This would just give a little bit of bump for some people to let us know by 4 o'clock Wednesday, February 1st, with an official letter of resignation.
And there's a lot of districts out there that are trying to incentivize people who know that maybe they have a spouse that's gonna transfer and they're moving out of the area and so forth, or they're moving on to a different part of the career, just to get a jump on the recruiting, as competitive as it is, so.
And this very much is not an early retirement benefit. However, sometimes people who might take advantage of these kind of things would be potential retirees. I don't want anybody to think like, oh, you think I'm worth $1,500 when I'm retiring. This isn't meant to be a slap on that or anything. It's just meant to be if you know already, and you can let us know so we can plan to help us out. We want to at least give you a little something for trying to help leave kids in a good spot.
Yeah, because remember last May, we had a lot of people announce in May, and now we're just kind of at the short time frame trying to turn around and hire, so it just gives a longer hiring window for the district, so.
And so Burlington had done this a couple of years, and I will tell you one thing that you can see sometimes is people who are not like at retirement age, but I know I'm going to move back home and if I get a job there or sub there or whatever, I'm gonna do that. So you may see that kind of thing with these as well.
Mark, you got something?
Yeah, later in the meeting, we have a resignation of somebody who did exactly what this program is.
Yeah.
Would she qualify for the 1,500?
The wording that we have here, if we kept this wording, which I think is the right thing to do personally, she would.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think she very much put that resignation in now with that purpose in mind to help us, because she knew her.
It'd be the right thing to do to approve that person, so,
That's where I was too.
yeah. Because this is what we're trying to encourage, because I know, in that case, I think they're going off and they're trying to start a business, so. I think it's the right thing to do, to work with people who we're asking people to work with us, so we should work with them, so, yeah. Anything else?
Thank you.
I already asked Lisa that question, I just want to make sure everybody else.
See, Mark and I talked, when we talked about the agenda, we knew that one came up, and the right thing to do is to allow that person, because it would be wrong to say, here's somebody that did it before the policy, we're not gonna pay them out, that would just be the wrong way to treat people, that would be wrong. And
Somehow they
so,
find out, don't they?
yeah, so they were doing the right thing for the school district before we announced the program, so of course we're gonna include them.
Greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
Wish her good luck.
Absolutely.
with her steps.
Make a motion to approve early notification incentive.
Second.
Motion second to approve the early notification incentive, all in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed? All right, it's passed. It's a good thing. It's not a good thing to lose seasoned people, but it's a good thing to get a jump on the hirings. All right, so next thing we have approved business, personnel business procedures. So resignations, transfers, employment contracts, voluntary agreements, sports officials. So there in your pocket, there was a couple that were added on the table late today. And I did ask for some clarification from Lisa on this, so there was some food service folks, that basically we're adding some hours to the day instead of hiring a full-time replacement, so that's what some of those that are, where,
And
yeah,
they were originally in your packet
Yeah.
showing just an hour increase, but we actually had to move them up a level since they're not just doing
Two of them,
serving,
right.
yeah. So some are a little bit of a, it's in the packet, but it's kind of a collection to the packet, so. And, yeah, so all those business actions in the packet, plus the ones that were on your place.
Okay, a question on, what's the starting salary for people who work in the cafeteria? As opposed to what we pay for an aide?
I think that's on the same page you're going to, I have a feeling, isn't it?
The salaries schedule.
I guess I'm encouraged to see that our cafeteria employees are moving more towards full-time employment.
Yeah. And it's a win-win for us and open.
It is, it is.
Just gonna take a minute to get ready.
I'm sorry, I should have asked you that this afternoon.
Right.
Is there a comment you're gonna make with it?
No,
No.
well, yeah, there might be. I was wondering.
Well, I didn't know if there's a comment you wanna make while she's,
I can get to it here, I can run to go grab it.
Aid's like 12.17 an hour.
Yeah,
something like
that's what
that.
that is, yeah.
Do you want me to get it?
But then these cafeteria people have been here for a while, that's why they're in the, heading towards $15, I think is what the situation is.
let me tell you, that's what the market out there is now for that kind of labor, I'll tell you.
And they are still, these folks are still our employees.
Yes, they're still our employees.
Yeah,
With IFRS and all that.
Yep.
And so, one thing that we'll do, and I think we're probably due for another round of this with OPA, is just verifying the hours that we're paying for to make sure that that lines up, because remember when you got a request for proposal from them, they would have said, you're covering this many hours in the proposal, so anything above that we'll cover, so we'll rectify that with them where it affects our, our prices and everything from them, so, because this is us upping the amount of hours that we're covering, so we need to make sure that they're true to their word on that, so we'll bring that back to them.
An aide, well, we have 4 levels of aides, but most aides are started on level 2, and that's 12-17, that's the very beginning. And in food service, we have 3 levels, most of them are gonna be on level 2, and that's 12-27.
okay, so we're in the same thing. First, looking at that, looked like the people who spend less time with students get paid more money than the people who spend their whole day with students, but you pointed out that I'm wrong about that assumption.
Any other questions about personnel business matters?
I move we approve all of the personnel business matters.
A second.
We have a motion second to approve all personnel business matters. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, that's approved. Financial reports in your packet, and plus, Lisa, is there anything you want to add?
No?
Okay. I appreciate this sheet.
Oh,
I
thank
do.
you. This is a good idea, yeah.
Because that's the one that I look at the most.
Yeah, it's much simpler.
I know. And I'm a simple, rounded kind of guy. There's a thing that I had that I looked at salaries and benefits, and I apologize, I didn't get a period where I wanted to, but we're 6 months through, which should be 50%, we'll pay 34, is that,
Well, no, because,
are there accruals in there
Yeah.
for that haven't been paid?
July,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
Okay. I figured that there's some accruals based on timing. Okay.
Motion to approve financial reports.
Second.
We have a motion second to Approve the financial reports, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Superintendent.
Okay, kind of a short report today. We did our curriculum cycle kickoff at Lakeview today. Got all of our curriculum teams together. I know we talked at this team about the 6-year curriculum cycle, and that hadn't been functioning in district for the last, I think we're on it only 3 years, 3 or 4 maybe. So we got back on track with that today. Obviously, because it hadn't been happening, people who were on year 5 of the cycle maybe really have some year 2, 3, 4 things to do. But we figured we'd start everybody somewhere and get back on track. Teachers were awesome for today. Honestly, we had some great conversations, some really deep conversations about how the group I was with was CTE, career and technical education, so like welding and business and some of those classes that maybe are all singletons at the secondary level, and then with fine arts and guidance. And a group of people that we maybe traditionally struggle to provide a lot of good professional development for, and they had some great ideas for how to help them grow as a department, and grew a lot from that. We're about this close to being ready to kick off frontline attendance with our principals and secretaries at each building. We have one last step to take with our consultant later this week, and then we'll be ready to roll it out to our principals. And what we're going to do for the rollout this spring, I know when we talked here originally, our plan was to roll it to like the preschool and try it with just the preschool for the spring. What we're learning through the process is it's gonna be very important to have an expert in each building. So we're going to give access to all of our principals and our secretaries. The teachers will still, for the remainder of this year, fill out a paper copy that they give to their office to put into the system. The paper copy comes over to us to double check that they've put it into the system correctly. So this gives our principals and secretaries a chance to practice it before it's people's leave time and paychecks that are affected. So this just gives us time to make sure that we're getting it absolutely right, and that there's somebody in each building when it's rolled out to the teachers that, you know, they're worried about the beginning of the year and getting things right for kids, which is what we want them worried about. They know they can go to their principal and or secretary and say, when I'm trying to do this ASOP thing, I just need some help with it, and there's somebody that can do that. And I had a really good conversation with our new state representative, Austin Harris, about some items. He had a meeting with a group of the governor and had talked about some items from our conversation earlier this fall. Specifically, he'd taken some interest in and had shared with the governor on their work that they're trying to do about licensure items for staff. And I talked specifically with him about science at the secondary level, how you have to have like a physics license or a or they've got different names, but physical science or chemistry or whatever the other different ones are, instead of having an all sciences license. And then I think maybe even more so in special education, where there are various level 2 or Strat 2 licenses, and then there's a Strat 1 license. But I've seen some wonderful Strat 1 teachers who could do a great job for the toughest Strat 2 kids. So trying to ease things a little bit for districts to be able to hire the right teacher rather than finding the right license. And he seemed to latch onto that as something good to share, so I was really appreciative of that and hopeful that it sounds like that is part of some of the work that they want to do this session. Obviously, we have a lot of other things in the session coming up to be ready to advocate for public schools, but I think looking at that is a nice piece for our legislators to be looking at. Then the usual, taking care of business, not spending as much time with kids recently as I would like, so my goal this week is to get back into each of our buildings at least once before the end of the week and kind of get a finger on the pulse and get to spend some time around kiddos.
Tell me about the UNI job fair.
So I've gone to that a couple times before in my previous stop, and usually you rent a table and you have your booth and you can talk about what openings you have, and obviously a lot of UNI education majors will come through, but then I think one of the ladies that I hired in Burlington, I'm trying to remember what state she was from, somewhere out west, but she came in because it was a bigger job fair in Iowa, and Iowa was a state she was interested in, so there's usually a good number of candidates that come through, and you just try to entice them and show them why your district's a great place to be, because that's kind of where we're at right now, is in recruiting of people. I've had better luck at that one than other ones. We went to they're the Jackrabbits, is it South Dakota State, I
South
think
Dakota
that is.
State, yeah.
So we went to that one, last year, and that one wasn't as good. I know, I think Iowa might do one, which I haven't been to before, but I'm gonna look into that and just kind of
There's
see
another
what.
one like Northwest Missouri.
You know, there might be, now that I'm back over in this middle area
I had to
of the
find out
state.
what it is, 'cause
Maybe I'll have to look at that.
Maryville, Northwest Missouri.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good size teacher scout. That's kind of in the area too.
Might have to look for that. Is that kind of what you were looking for?
Yeah, are those just a one-day thing, or?
Yeah, you go in, usually people will stay up the night before, because if you're setting up a booth, you try to set it up at like 7:30 or 8 before things get started. And
Yeah.
it's a long day, it's a lot of talking.
We probably don't have booth materials that we'd have to get a jump on getting some booth.
Yeah, I probably have to start looking into that and come up with some things, because, you know, some of those people come with really nice pull-down screens and everything. The difference is we'll probably be going there hiring maybe a couple or a few positions, whereas those ones with the really fancy booths, a lot of times.
Like Des
are
Moines, gonna
hiring
go in there
20
and
or
hire
30.
50 teachers.
Yeah,
Well, that may be something, yeah, maybe we'll check with like the PACT office or something, see
See if
what
they
kind
have
of local
something.
grants they might have, just as far as the community itself. Or
That's a good idea.
One of the biggest selling points that we have is our,
Superintendent.
well, yeah, that's number one, I agree.
no, that's a detriment.
But number two, we've got real close second, is our leisure activities.
Yeah,
And if, and Mac might be able to help us out with that,
yeah,
because I know lots of people that came to here, Centerville, because of what we had to offer.
Yeah, the lake and all, I mean, and all that, yeah.
yeah.
And, you know, I did booths for many years in our business. And I can tell you, there's lots of things.
Yeah.
But you need a booth that, it's not, you can't just have a table, a tablecloth and some brochures.
Right.
And you gotta wow them a little bit,
Mhm.
and I'd spend some money.
Well, and, you know, one thing that we got a little tricky with is we asked to be put across from like Waukee or West Des Moines or somebody like that. Usually gets a long line, because a lot of times you can, hey, well, while you're waiting,
Oh,
come
yeah,
on over and talk to me a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
See that long line there? That's what you're gonna have in traffic. See this over here?
No,
This is,
this is it, you're gonna be at work in 10 minutes.
yeah, this is
That's great.
it. Yeah, you probably need to think about a booth and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But I think
Yeah,
that's a good thing to do.
and,
What's it, when is that? March?
I wanna say it was March. I know I'd looked at it at one point, but it's been a little while since I dug into that, but, I think March.
Is there, I know my son's in accounting club up there. Is there, in like, different companies come in and present to that? Is there anything like that education wise?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I think, I'm not quite on the in crowd yet for that stuff. I'm working to get there. Definitely know a few people in the education department, but, you know, I think you just watch for those things to come up. If we'd have a school that would reach out saying, hey, would you wanna do this? And I know I've touched base with like the guy at William Penn I talked to about, some programs they've got that teacher program for associates working in school. So I'm trying to build some of those relationships so that I might be a person that they would call for that. When I was over east, I would talk to the substitute authorization class, you know, each semester when they offered that. So I'd like to try to find the people that teach that on the west side of the Great Prairie and try to get involved in that. And basically, like I said with the calendar, it's about getting your name and your logos and your district out there as much as possible. So I'm kind of always watching for those opportunities to sneak out and talk in a place and try to win some people over, hearts and minds and all that good stuff.
Give me a call, I mean,
Okay, yeah, seriously,
I've helped other businesses with their booth,
yeah,
and basically all we're doing is selling Centerville here. And
right,
That's easy, that's,
But no, I think
I
Pat
agree,
probably
that
has
is
some,
easy to do.
stuff, because they go to the state fair every year, so they've got some parts.
and they have been for a couple of years, they've been kind of lazy.
Well, okay, didn't know that, all right.
Mark, did we decide, I know we talked about like teacher reviews, did we decide when we're gonna do those
For the,
teacher reviews and?
like, what do you
Of the
mean?
3-year cycle of teacher reviews, you're talking about, like the
Yeah.
performance reviews?
Oh, their evaluations? Okay, thank you for asking about that. So the principals have been working really hard on doing their observations of teachers. I will tell you, it sounds like they're well on track, if not maybe slightly ahead. I think Terry's pretty far ahead, because she keeps calling and telling me about all the observations she's done. So, you know, they complete whoever's on cycle by the end of the year. Then the evaluation goes into their file each year. In terms of using the system that we got through Frontline, I'm meeting with a person on Wednesday, actually. They kind of recommend, like, work on this solution, then work on this solution, then work on this solution. So, but I believe, it sounds like I can work on evaluation while we work on the time clock solution with them. So, I'll be having similar meetings with that person to get that system.
So
well done.
Frontline's gonna track all of that stuff.
That'll be where the principals will track that work.
Are we also doing coaches?
Yep, coaches
That was
are
my
reviewed.
question, too.
Yep.
I asked about that before.
Yep, coaches are reviewed, and Rich has done a good job of getting through that work as he goes, and we've had some philosophical conversations that I think have been really good about, you know, it's not, obviously, the thing that I like about him as an activities director, is that he's not necessarily about wins and losses, he's about how we're growing the kids as people, and I think that's a big deal, so.
I had some conversations with him.
Yeah.
about that too, so.
That, I think that means a lot, you know, because if you get it bogged down in the wins and losses, I don't know that that's what's best for kids. And I'm happy that we have a person who's doing that work who wants to focus on coaching people to be better people.
Speaking of Rich Parker, I don't know, but he's mentioned to me that he might be interested in retiring really soon.
So my job is just to convince him not to after that. And we're in good shape.
So we do have to approve that.
Yeah.
We're not. I tell you what, I think we're fortunate to have Rich in that job.
He's a
really
good
do.
guy, he really knows his stuff. But yeah, no, I really appreciate that, because that's a big passion of mine, right, is good evaluation of our staff, because I think not only do we see that when we need to know if something isn't going well and we need to fix it, but also we need to be telling our good people what they're doing great, and help them to grow, because I don't think, you know, just to put somebody awesome on the spot, Lisa Massey wants to grow all the time. She's always thinking of ways to be a great teacher, and we, as administrators, have a responsibility to help those people be able to do great things that they want to do and help them accomplish that. And I think evaluation is an important part of that. You know, I've always viewed evaluation more about growth than it is about yes or no, good or bad. Because if you make evaluation binary, then it's completely useless.
And some of the biggest challenges that teachers face is keeping it interesting, their job interesting. And, you know, I've counseled lots of them, you know, and I just tell them, if you're not having fun, it's your fault. But what you can do as a superintendent, and what we can do as a board to keep them, not necessarily challenged, but keep it fun for them.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta figure out how to do that, because you walk into third grade for the 20th year, and it gets to be kind of a long day sometimes.
Yeah.
But maybe you've got some ideas on that.
Well, I really think it comes down to the same thing as anything about making a school good, and that's treating your people well. I think if we're treating them right and we are being upright and honest with them, and we're trying to make this a great place for them to work, I think it makes it a lot easier to come
It
in.
does.
And it makes it where you're not that person who's taught the same year 30 times, you've taught 30 different years, because people feel like, I told all my teachers every year that I evaluated, I hope that I see mistakes when I come in and observe, because I'm not gonna ding you on it. I want that to be something that we can talk about, and maybe I can give you ideas and I can help you grow from it. I do not wanna watch the perfect lesson. The perfect lesson is useless, because nobody's growing from the perfect lesson. So I think letting people realize that, to some degree, a classroom in a positive way as a laboratory, because we're always looking to change that variable that takes our kids to the next level. I had an awesome conversation with Terry Schofield the other day about something kind of out there and new that she wants to try with one of her grade level teams to help break up some kid needs and provide some intervention. And they're gonna come together and they're gonna meet about grouping kids differently for a certain period of time, for a handful of weeks, and track what the results are on their formative assessments with that. And I think just thinking outside the box, because we've done education one way for about 100 years probably, it hasn't changed very much. So thinking, what can we do to change it, to make it better, so that kids can get more out of it, is huge. And you're right, that's the trick. Because if you start to, what do you call that, get kind of complacent with, well, I guess I'm doing this today, then it's hard to grow.
One year I was teaching 7th grade physical science, and I taught this lesson on rocks. And it's 2 boxes of all these rock samples. And I've done this lesson, I don't know how many times, and I thought, I'm just driving me nuts. God, I don't think I can do this again. The kids came in, and they saw those boxes of rocks, and they got all excited, just like they did every time. And that's when I realized, this ain't about the rocks. It's about being there and sharing their enthusiasm. That's what it was.
You know what, I will tell you, from being around in this district, I knew it when I was a teacher here, but I get to see it even more as a superintendent. We have a lot of people for whom it's not about the rocks.
Yeah, I
They're
think
going
so.
into those classrooms and you know, they see those individual kids lighting up about the thing that they've probably seen 30 times before, and they're excited with them. Like, we've got an awesome staff.
Witness success. That was my best part.
That's my report.
Good report. So, it is 6:28.
You're in under an hour.
I was looking at this, don't take this wrong. You started at 6:12.
Sorry. Yep.
And so this was great discussion, because I think this is a huge important part of it, but I'm thinking, we're gonna get this in under an hour. And I'm also thinking it's time for board takeaways, and how in the world are you gonna come up with something that you learned, something you wanna learn more about, something you think the board needs to do as a board takeaway, when we had such a short, just kind of business-like meeting? And I'm not sure, does anybody have a board takeaway from this meeting?
I have,
Because I'm willing to dispense of them.
well, I do have one thing I'd like to bring up, and I don't know what to take away. Someone asked me, I don't think the high school plans are on our website.
They aren't, and that's something that we need to fix. I need to find a way to get it on there.
If we could put those plans on there.
Yep.
And then maybe even a short construction update, you know, every couple of weeks or once a month, I think that would really help public, because several people have asked me, you know, what does it look like? Well, okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll all tag team on that one a little bit, like, and I don't know, every construction company.
So I'll do voluntary board takeaways, is what I'm
There
saying.
we go.
There you go.
Okay,
So when they built our Community First new headquarters in Atumwa a couple of years ago, the construction company had a time lapse, did a time lapse camera where you could, you know, see before or after, and then you can, from whenever they put that camera up to that day, you can go back and see the progression. It was kind of cool for all the employees to look at, so I don't know if that's something they've done before.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know Aaron had gotten an advertisement from a company that was willing to do that kind of thing, but I think it ended up kind of pricey. We've received from Rochelle some, and I'm pointing at Cameron because I'm gonna need his, this is a tech thing I'm going to need help with, and I'm usually pretty good at that stuff, but, the file sizes are pretty large, the things that we get from Rochelle, so I just need to figure out how to get it to be reasonable for people to be able to download off the website on their computer.
Pressure.
I'm glad you know.
Any other voluntary board takeaways?
I have one. We're not quite halfway through the school year, but I would like to see a OPA update as far as what they're actually saving us, the school district. If that makes sense. I know we probably won't know the actual numbers until the end of school, but I'd like to see kind of where we're at according to maybe
No, I don't know.
last year.
I don't
I don't
know
know
if
if
we
it's
were
a
saving.
saving.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Say that again?
it's probably about a break even, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it was to save us money, it was to improve food quality.
Our bid, we require a break even, but,
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's okay too, if it's a break even.
Yeah.
I just,
You just want to see the financials.
I just don't want
Yeah.
to.
Just to make sure it still
I
is a
don't want
break
it to
even.
cost us a lot more than.
Got it.
Right, it's supposed to be a break-even deal with an improvement in food.
Well,
So I wouldn't say, I think it's an okay request, I just wouldn't expect savings, I was.
Okay.
And I did go down and eat lunch.
Did you? Good.
At the.
Sorry I couldn't come that day.
That's okay, at the junior high, or whatever we're calling it, middle school. And I thought the food was pretty good. The chicken patty was really dry. I told Mark that, I shared that with him. It was really dry. I mean, the kids, they probably like it just fine.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, it was okay.
Any other board takeaways? I have a feeling our next meeting's gonna be a lot longer because it's a work session, so.
And we already have some positives coming in to talk to you too.
Okay. All right, if no other, we're at an hour.
One minute,
One minute.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion second to adjourn, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for everybody tuning in online.
Think we're in a short one.
Cameron, thank you for making the